Thanks for staying with us on the conversation. On the first half, we dealt situations in Kenya where the national call for protest by the opposition Raila Odinga has been suspended. And now we switch gears to Nigeria, where we have conversations as a leaked audio conversation between the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi and David Oyedepo, the founder of the Living Faith Church Worldwide, stirred up controversies among Nigerians over the weekend. In the audio clip, Peter Obi could be heard assuring Oyedepo that if he is successful, they would not regret voting for him. He also pleaded with Oyedepo to help secure votes of the Christians in the Southwest and Kwara, as they both consented to the elections being a religious war. While some critics blame the Labour Party candidate for inciting religious war, others claim the audio may have been doctored to discredit Peter Obi. But reacting to this, Kenneth Okonkwo, Labour Party's Presidential Campaign Council PCC spokesperson, confirmed the authenticity of the audio clip but suggested that the conversation was taken out of context with a different interpretation from what it meant. Following a much disputed election that produced the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as winner of the presidential election, the Labour Party candidate Peter Obi has sought to challenge the conduct and outcome of the election in court, as well as invalidate the candidacy of the All Progressives Congress. And now joining us for this conversation, we have Oluku Mathew, a political analyst. He joins us from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much, Mr. Mathew, for joining us on the conversation. All right, so Mathew. Wonderful. So, Mathew, let's start off with the authenticity of this audio clip, because we've seen different views by spokespersons of the Labour Party. Now, on one side, it says that the audio clip is real but misinterpreted, while others claim that the audio clip was manipulated, and another spokesperson actually said it was deep fake. So what exactly is to be made of this audio clip that we have circulating on social media?
Thank you for having me. To be quite honest with you, the person in question, Peter Obi, have not personally spoken, but that is not to say the statement credited to his spokesperson is not valid, because he have neither said he was not speaking or they were not speaking on his behalf or anything of that nature. But what I can categorically tell you is that even the founder of the Living Faith Chapel have said the other day that most people who contest for offices, or almost all the political parties, are approaching for prayers. So to that extent, I think they are not entirely debunking the sincerity or the genuinity of the recorded conversation.
Now, while you say that they're not entirely debunking the authenticity of the conversation, now many are of the opinion that this year's election and politics in Nigeria has become more of a religious conquest. And on one hand, you said that a lot of people have been meeting the Bishop Oyedepo for prayers. But in the conversation there, what he said was that he should try to secure votes for him, or try to beg or plead with Christians in the Southwest and Kwara to vote for him. So what are your thoughts on this break line between religion and politics going on in Nigeria presently?
Okay, let me answer it from two dimensions. In the first instance, I believe the bishop himself is a Nigerian who have right to support any presidential candidate of any party in an election of this nature. Having said that, I understand that Nigeria is a secular society, and that if you start running an election campaign on religious consideration, it might trigger crisis that may not be healthy for our democracy. But let me quickly say that the APC presidential candidate, Ahmed Tinubu, who is now the president-elect, set the stage for what you will call an election that took religious dimension. Because we saw an APC candidate who decided to go for a Muslim vice presidential candidate. And when that happened, emotion ran high. And when emotion ran high, you don't micromanage people on how they manage their emotion. Because as we speak, it is on record that after APC had chosen presidential candidate and vice presidential candidate as Muslim, they went and chose a Christian as the chairman of their presidential campaign council, who is the governor of Plateau State. So it's not by coincidence that they choose him. But again, let me quickly tell you that the Constitution and the Constitution have this federal character entrenched in it. And the people who drafted the Constitution were careful to ensure that the issue of federal character is embedded in the Constitution. And the Constitution, if you look at the spirit and letter of the Constitution, it will clearly tell you that when you talk about federal character, it's not limited to only tribe alone. It equally has to do with religious balancing. And in the spirit of religious balancing, that may have influenced APC in rooting for a Christian to head their presidential campaign council. And if you look at the clandestine meeting that may be going on among the ruling party in deciding who lead the National Assembly, I can tell you that the information that is filtering into the public space, into the media space, show that they may be zeroing in on areas where they have senator-elect who is a Christian in a way to balance the already lopsided position of the president and vice president from the same faith.
Okay, now talking about federal character and religious balance, I mean, one of the other reasons why we saw a Muslim ticket, I mean, some people posited that it was for Bola Ahmed Tinubu looking for a candidate who would be able to secure a lot of votes for him from the north, not necessarily because of religion. So does that actually excuse the Labour Party from terming this election a religious war? I mean, we did not necessarily see Bola Ahmed Tinubu conversing and saying that people should vote for him because he's a Muslim.
Let me quickly tell you that the conversation we are seeing was not for public consumption. And though, like I've said, that even Obi himself have not come out to either claim or accept that the conversation is genuine or that it came from him, between him and the man in question and the man of God in question. But let me quickly tell you that if APC do not choose Muslim tickets, Nigerians will not Nigeria will not be polarized along religious line in choosing who to vote for, in arriving at who to vote for based on religious coloration. Personally, as an individual, I think I do not accept that religious consideration should be a determining factor of how people should determine who to vote for. I think we should look beyond religion. We should be looking at the antecedent of the person, the character of the person, the capacity of the person, and all that. But even as we do that, nobody as a Christian in this country, we appreciate a situation where almost all the position that matters go to the other religion. Nigeria is a secular society dominated by Christians and Muslims. So if you're having a situation where Christians are dominating the whole office spaces, I don't think the Muslims will be comfortable with it. The same thing is applicable to Christians. So whether we like it or not, I'm not giving endorsement to consideration that has to do with religion in terms of arriving on who to vote for. And I'm not holding brief for anybody in this circumstance. What I'm saying is that APC set the stage for this scenario. If APC are choosing a Christian running mate from the north, nobody will be talking of somebody looking at what transpired as a religious war or whatever, however you want to look at it.
But you would say that APC chose its candidate. Would you say it was based on religion or based on the credentials of the vice president? Let's just clarify that.
As at the time he was choosing, Senator Kashi Shettima, who is now the vice president-elect, APC made us to understand that it was based on competence and capacity. But I can assure you that if you are looking at capacity and competence, you cannot tell me that you look at the whole Christian politicians in the north, that you cannot find somebody who fits into that category of having that competence and the capacity to lead. So for me, I think it's more of looking at the strategy to win an election, looking at where you have the block vote, looking at what the northern Muslim, how the northern Muslim will see it if you choose a Christian from the north. I think those are the considerations APC must have taken into consideration before arriving at the candidate they choose, beyond what they are telling Nigerians.
Okay, now let's go to the conversation. I mean, you mentioned earlier on that this was a private conversation, but it was leaked. I know you're not a lawyer, but are there legal grounds to it? And do you also oppose the fact that this private conversation was leaked?
The issue is, if, like I said earlier on, the conversation is no longer whether the conversation is leaked. As long as the people who are involved accept that they actually had that conversation, though we are yet to hear directly from the horse's mouth. I mean, the respected bishop, the founder of Living Faith Chapel, Redeem, and the presidential candidate of Labour Party. We are yet to hear directly from them whether it's a conversation that actually that they actually had. And what we are hearing from their spokesmen, one is saying it was quoted as it was taken out of context, and one is saying perhaps it's doctored. So until we hear directly from them, we cannot directly affirm whether it was doctored or it was genuine. But if we are looking at what we have in the public domain currently that have not been debunked, though it may still be debunked, if we are looking at it based on that, and we are having this conversation, I'm telling you categorically that the bishop, as a Nigerian, reserves every right as any other Nigerian, even if I'm not a lawyer, to determine whether to support a particular candidate for purpose of presidential election or not. And if you are looking at whether it is based on religious belief, I told you earlier on that APC set the stage. I do not belong to any political party, but I try to strike a balance. I'm a Christian, and I would have wanted a situation where if you do anything, just in the spirit and letter of the Constitution that talks about father character, that if you give a position, it should reflect geographical spread. I believe that if you allow the giving out of position to equally reflect spread in terms of religion between the two dominant religions in our country, because Nigeria is a secular society, I believe it will be better for peaceful coexistence among Nigerians.
Okay, now still looking at them verifying the message. I mean, we've not heard anything from Peter Obi. Like you rightly said, his spokesperson has spoken. As for Bishop Oyedepo, he did not necessarily talk about the conversation, but in one of his sermons, he actually denied campaigning for any politician or influencing votes. But now let's talk about the reason why this audio was actually leaked. Now, a week ago, we had conversations which was trending on social media when the DSS revealed a plot for an interim government. And now, once again, we're having a leaked audio conversation. Now, from the camp of the Labour Party, they are insinuating that they are trying to look for ways to try and indict the Labour candidate, Peter Obi, and for treason and put him in prison. I want your take on this kind of conversations. How do we link all of this together? And do you feel that there's a plot against the Labour candidate, Peter Obi?
To be quite honest with you, when the DSS came up with the idea or the supposed entering government being plotted by some individuals, I think PDP and APC maintain a position I think is germane. They challenge DSS to go ahead and arrest anybody they know is planning interim government. Because whether I like it or not, the election may have been deemed not free, fair, and credible. But you cannot create vacuum. And as it stands, we already have a president-elect. We understand that Labour Party and PDP, they have gone to court. So I equally challenge DSS that if they have intelligence, credible intelligence, actionable intelligence, that has to do with people who are plotting for interim government, that they should not waste time, they should go ahead and arrest anybody found to be doing that. But beyond the arrest and beyond whether this is a plot to hoodwink a P2B into the agenda of an interim government, possibly to arrest him, I do not entirely think that is his scenario. I feel it's a way to demarcate P2B. Because for me, from all I can understand, Nigerian politics is not stopping today. It's not ending today. After this 2023 election, the president would have been sworn in by May 29. In 2027, there's another round of election. I would say that Obi may not be contesting. So it may be more of a calculated attempt to demarket him, to reduce his popularity ahead of another round of election that may be coming up, rather than trying to hoodwink him as somebody who is fronting an interim government for the purpose of arresting him and maybe putting him behind the bar.
Okay, now aside the marketing Peter Obi, another school of thought is saying that this is also a ploy to distract people against the court proceedings going on. You would recall that Peter Obi is challenging the outcome and the conduct of the elections. Do you also feel the same way?
No, the truth is, what you need to prosecute a case in court is evidence. Don't forget that before a Peter Obi, even Atiku, approached the electoral tribunal, they took time to gather information, to gather evidence. We had it at a point where the Court of Appeal gave an order giving the permission to inspect the electoral material. All these were in preparation for the case in the tribunal. So for me, I think it's a matter of, when it comes to the electoral tribunal, Peter Obi will have his day in court, Atiku will have his day in court, and what is it called? The president-elect, Senator Ahmed Tinubu, will have his day in court. So I do not believe that it is going to, in any way, tamper or distort the case in court. It's a thing that has to do with evidence. It should be evidence-based. So for me, I think there are two different scenarios. Don't forget that politicians have a way of playing politics. Beyond politics, litigation is a different thing. It's another thing to perceive that election was marred with irregularity. It's another thing to gather your evidence. If you are able to get evidence and present it before the electoral tribunal, of course, you'll be able to have a good case. But if you are not able to get the necessary evidence you need, irrespective of the perception, it will be difficult for you to prove your case. But you cannot take it away that Nigerians, even the international community, had that perception that the election was not free, fair, and credible. And we have a situation where even the British High Commission have said that the ruling party, the government should address the concern of opposition. I am of a free, fair, and credible process. I am not interested in who wins an election. I'm interested in going through the process, let the process be free, fair, and credible. That is my stand on that.
All right. Thank you so much, Mathew, for joining us on this conversation. Unfortunately, we'll have to end the conversation here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of The Conversation. On the first half, we dealt with situations in Kenya where we see emissaries from the ruling government, William Ruto, visiting the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. We also have discussions on the fact that the so-called nationwide and mother of all protests has been suspended by the rival government, Raila Odinga. We just finished conversations in Nigeria concerning controversies of a leaked audio conversation between the Labour Party candidate, Peter Obi, and a cleric, founder of a popular church in Nigeria, Bishop Oyedepo. This is where we'll draw the curtains for today. To join me again on Wednesday for another edition of The Conversation, I am Rita Omodia. Many thanks for watching.